At this time, I'll call to order the York County Council Workshop for October 14th, 2025. First item on the agenda is communication, vision, and discussion. I'm going to turn it over to management team.
Yes, Madam Chair, good to have everybody here this evening. We're excited to introduce you to our new Public Information Director, Lisa Wolf-Chasen. She's going to give a presentation tonight, introducing herself, giving you all the chance to get to know her, and she's also going to share a vision for our path forward for communications at York County. Lisa and I have talked a number of times about where I want to see communications go, and she's done some analysis already in her first 3 weeks here and developed this plan on her own. And tonight we look forward to sharing that with y'all and getting y'all's feedback and having a conversation about it. So with that, I'll hand it off to you, Lisa.
Thank you very much, Josh. And Madam Chair, members of the council, thank you for having me this evening. I am Lisa Wolf-Chasen, as Josh mentioned, the new Director of Public Information, and I'd love to start with a slideshow presentation, which Karen's indicating will take me 1 minute. So while she gets that loaded, I can dive into a bit of who I am as a person. I am a mom of a 5-year-old, so I moved here with my husband, my son, Jack, and our dog Doodle. My husband's name's Nate. Didn't want to leave him out. I keep doing that. And I come from a background of private and public service in the communications field. So I graduated from Florida State University and then immediately went into journalism in Montana. This is going to be mostly on the first slide, but I'll breeze through it. I was an anchor and reporter in Helena, Montana, and then I worked in a few news spaces in Florida before switching over to public relations. In the public relations sphere, I balanced kind of private and public sector. I worked for Pinellas County Schools as their public information officer, leading their communication efforts. I worked for a nonprofit cancer research hospital, Moffitt Cancer Center, in the Tampa Bay region. And most recently, before coming to York County, I was the Director of Communications for Port Tampa Bay, which was a government entity that operated like a private business and was Florida's largest and most cargo diverse seaport. Okay. Does everyone? Oh, okay. Do you have a printout of my presentation by chance?
I do not.
No.
Oh, okay. I can pass it to the council.
This is a test. This is a test of your abilities.
And
aren't
we can continue with the presentation without PowerPoint on the screen, but we can make a quick copy for everybody if you want, if y'all don't mind giving us 2 minutes. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, trust technology.
Well, let me say while we're waiting on that also that my communication philosophy is to really focus on open, collaborative, and authentic and transparent communication. So to that end, I'll go through kind of the vision that I've outlined for our already very successful department, but at any point in the presentation, if you'd like to drill down into a specific topic more or have questions along the way, feel free to stop me and I'm happy to address those. I can also take questions at the end. Would you like me to wait until the copies are made?
No, I'm
Okay.
fine. Go ahead.
I'll keep going. So the easiest part of the presentation is to introduce you to our current public information team. 2 of the members of the 3 are here this evening. I've already introduced myself, and then we have Greg Suskin. He is our public information manager, and our team is rounded out by Josh Stinder, and he is our multimedia specialist. Both Josh and Greg come with an extensive background of television, broadcast news experience, and have both come to the county in recent years. I'm sure you're both familiar with working them. And then I'm the new addition to the team. And what I'll be doing in my presentation is really identifying 5 buckets of areas of growth for the county. And those include social media, communications plan, increasing collaboration both internally and externally, a branding update, and professional development training. I come from an educator, my mother-in-law's an educator, and my grandparents are educators. So I really believe in committing to lifelong learning no matter what field you're in and keeping your skill set sharp. In each of these buckets, in social media, we're looking to establish some countywide protocols. I'll dive more into this in detail when we get to that page. Also conduct countywide training. We have about 69 pages that are affiliated with York County government, and a lot of those people have had no formal training prior. So we'd like to conduct the training, make the content a little more strategic, and possibly after an audit and with discussions with leadership, reduce the number of pages that are representing our county. In terms of the communications plan, I'd like to take a three-pronged approach. And this is page 3 of the presentation that Josh is passing around. I'd like to take a three-pronged approach of really diving into separate plans. Oh, here we go. So there's our team, there's some faces with the names I just mentioned, and here we are. Okay, so a communication plan that consists of an internal, external, and crisis communication focus. The internal communication would obviously be more staff-focused, and also our countywide focus. The external would be media partners as well as our residents. And then crisis communication would be working collaboratively with the Office of Emergency Management. Now, in terms of increasing collaboration, I'd like to establish a public relations council. That would actually be an internal measure. We'll dive into that on a few slides. Meet with the external partners that perhaps we don't have strong relationships with at present, and then strengthen and leverage our existing external partnerships and relationships. And in terms of the brand update, I'd like to establish some formal York County brand guidelines so that there is no confusion when residents are looking at an official document, website, social media site, or building. Create a countywide digital library so we could provide our assets to our external partners as well as members of the media and residents, and really make sure we're communicating with a one county, one voice mentality. And so that if anyone's speaking to a member of York County, whether it's on staff or council, that we're kind of singing from the same songbook on key issues. Professional development training, just expanding our department skill set. All three of us come from a news background. Really utilizing some private and public and governmental training to just grow as a team. So we'll get more into the details of the plan. The first spot we'll start with is the social media strategy, and I'll really be recommending to build on a very successful foundation. York County enjoys a really well-established following when you compare the county to other similar-sized county governments. That means you have more followers, you have better engagement, and you're posting more often than other county governments of your size. So a recommendation for moving forward is just building on that success. We have 6 core pages as a county, and those are official Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter or X, LinkedIn, and Nextdoor. Outside of that, there are 69 total social pages that are representative of a variety of departments. Of just the core 6, we have 37,000 followers, which again is a fairly high number when you compare like-sized counties. Some of the things I hope to do in the first couple of months is audit the existing pages, utilizing social media planning and monitoring software. And what this will really allow us to do is see which pages are successful and which pages need maybe redirection or more support. It also allows us in one platform to comment and reply to comments we receive in one spot. So the staff won't have to log on to individual pages. It allows us to be more efficient and more nimble in responding to concerns that we receive through social media. And it allows us to pull analytics either monthly, quarterly, yearly, so we can monitor the success of those pages. It also allows us to develop a calendar to make sure that our posts are in alignment with our strategic plan and some of the most important issues of our county. I'd also like to see us diversify our content to match the demographics of each page. Most of our residents will follow us on our Facebook account, but we have a strong following of younger residents on Instagram. There's more of a political and governmental focus on X, and obviously when we're looking to hire or recruit new talent, we'd be utilizing LinkedIn. So really developing tiered messaging specific to each platform, which will allow us easily to be done utilizing that monitoring software that we're hoping to implement. We'd also like to partner with outside agencies like Visit York County or local chambers to really help cross-promote our initiatives and make sure that we're reaching as wide of an audience as possible, and then train departments utilizing social media to ensure brand consistency. So we have already started to utilize the monitoring software, bringing in those departmental pages so we can start monitoring, and any training or changes would be done after careful review and in council with leadership and the assistant county managers that are overseeing those departments. Moving on to our communication plans, I'd like to create a strategic communication plan that's encompassing of internal, external, and crisis communication needs. The internal plan would focus on employees and collaboration, as well as tying in the county values that we've already established. Also establish information flows for protocols, whether it's me disseminating information to Josh that can then pass along to council, or ways that we can make sure staff feel more informed about our initiatives and efforts. We've heard just from initial meeting with department heads that staff don't always know some of the big announcements that are either decided at council meetings or made by our office via press release, so making sure that they feel connected. And one of the ways is a revamp of our employee newsletter. Our employee newsletter is successful at the moment, but just making it something that is wanting to be read and something that people can take pride if they're featured or their department is featured over time. For the external bucket, strengthening media relations. This is an area where Greg and Josh have already really shown. They both have contacts in the Charlotte and South Carolina markets and utilize those very well. But we'd also like to increase our stakeholder engagement. I'm sure it comes as no surprise that viewership and readership of media is on the decline. So how we communicate our own story becomes increasingly important. And so a big part of that will be our social media presence. I'd also like to re-strategize the York County 101 program. Greg has already sent me some great ideas, but really we'd like to target a more diversified participation. The program is extremely popular, but is mostly consisting of either people who don't need to work or are already retired. Through some tweaks of the program with hours of the day that it's offered, or perhaps outreach from our assistant county manager and county managers to local businesses, I'd like to see more business leaders really take pride in going through that program and seeing it as a real leadership opportunity that people feel proud to send their employees to. So we get a good mix of people who are maybe our older residents, but also some of our younger individuals who might have different business or just personal positions in the county. I'd also like to help establish customer service software or auto-call software. This could be extremely helpful in incidents like the recent water main break, ensuring that we can quickly and accurately communicate to our residents when we do have an issue pop up that's maybe not to the level of something that our Office of Emergency Management would communicate. And we can do that also in the crisis bucket by establishing a lot of templated plans for likely scenarios we might face, but bringing in some really well-performing auto-call software could greatly assist the county. And the last item in the external bucket would be a community-focused newsletter. So if we notice that a lot of our residents are, maybe I'll use a timely issue, confused about their reassessment notice, we'll put in a reminder of how they can appeal that notice and other key tax information dates so that they have that any kind of timely and relevant, not only just good news that we're hoping to share, but also resources that they might not instinctively know where to find on the website. In the crisis bucket, I come from a kind of crisis communications background at the school district. We were faced with nearly a crisis daily, and I did pursue a master's degree, so this is kind of where my bread and butter, even though I hope that we don't have a major crisis for the many years that I'm here. But I'll continue to work closely with Greg as well as Office of Emergency Management to build out a robust and scenario-based plan, again, thinking through what are our most likely situations that we might face, and then building out a foundation communication template that we can immediately edit with the facts of the day to deploy, so we're not having to start from scratch when we face each scenario. I was very proud to hear that in my second week, my staff participated alongside the Office of Emergency Management in a Carowinds training, which was a large-scale active shooter, active assailant training that took place not only with York County responders, emergency responders, but also those from Mecklenburg County as well. And they are regularly taking part in trainings in the county as well as in the region to make sure that their skills stay sharp. We'll continue that effort. And then we'll grow in our role as York County's Joint Information Center. If there was a large-scale emergency, all the different municipalities as well as law enforcement and emergency responders would likely report to us through Office of Emergency Management, so making sure that we're a well-connected and well-informed public information officers in the region. In ways we'd like to increase collaboration is by really, I call them validators, but you can think of them almost as third-party cheerleaders or ambassadors outside and inside of our program. So we can leverage third-party validators by strengthening existing relationships with external county partners, organizations, and individuals. Research will show that we can sing our praises all day long, but if we have an credible person in the community that lends their voice and support to our same message, it tends to go further. So we can do this in a couple ways. The first is actually an internal effort, and that is creating an internal public relations council here in York County. So these would be individuals from different departments, public works, parks, some of the big departments that have a lot of community-facing programs, and making sure they feel confident in their skills, whoever that person is who tends to man the booth at community events or is running their Facebook page, making sure they have good training, make sure they know the brand guidelines, make sure they feel confident in their efforts to communicate directly with our residents and citizens. Again, we'll regularly meet with some key groups to make sure that if a crisis were to occur or if we needed to lean on support from an external validator, we know exactly who to call, and it's not a first call, hey, could you really help us through this tough moment we're experiencing? Those would include emergency responders, municipalities, school systems, large employers, utility providers, chambers of commerce, tourism, agencies, et cetera. So just making sure that we have like a diversified field book that we could call and ask for support, and we do the same in return. Working with the York County Values Committee, I was recruited by Trish to be part of that effort, and I'm very excited to join Greg and others to make sure that we're creating validators or ambassadors from within. I want our staff to feel so proud of working here that if they're asked by someone at the grocery store or at their church or at their child's school, they feel empowered, even if they don't know the answer, to say, you know what, everyone here at the county is very helpful, so I don't know, but I'll follow up with you and get a response. And that comes from a sense of pride and a devotion to the strategic plan and the values that you all have laid out. And the last thing is creation of fact sheets for council or county leaders on key issues. So when we have new announcements, new economic development projects, maybe common questions that you get, again, referring back to the tax assessment and reassessment year, creating a fact sheet so that if you all get stopped by community members when you're out or on your own private social media accounts, you have some guidance, if you'd like it, to help you so you don't feel like you have to reach out every time to ask questions on the county's official stance or where residents and citizens can find information. For the branding, it's really about creating connection so that not only our residents, but our staff and our partners feel bought in to our vision for our county. We currently utilize the seal, which is the emblem that has the eagle, the rose, and the outline of King Mountain, as well as the logo with the sunset. I think the county could greatly benefit from a branding exercise, which would possibly include an external person coming in and surveying staff, as well as the community on what ties us all together. The logo is not very largely utilized throughout our county. The seal, which is again the eagle emblem, is utilized a lot more. So if we did not have the funding to utilize a third-party resource, we could always make a shift to utilizing the seal as the logo. In the meantime, providing some brand guidance countywide so that, again, there is no confusion. And I'd really welcome feedback on this to see, because I'm new to the county, but coming into the county, I assumed that the seal was the logo. I don't want residents to be confused. Is this the official county? Is this just a organization that's borrowing the county's name because of where they're located? I want it to be very clear for everyone that this is the official county document, park, building, et cetera. So brand guidelines help ensure that residents will recognize that no matter what they're looking at through consistency. A digital library would allow us to choose how we want to visually represent ourselves. So instead of, we all know also that newsrooms and journalists have less time than they did before to devote to a story. So if we can feed them the images that we'd like them to portray from the county, it will make their job easier, but we are also being in charge of our story as opposed to being reactive. So creating a brand library of high quality images and video. So not only media can use them, but then people like Visit York County or the chambers can borrow them as well, so that we are being more collaborative and growing our relationships. And then in turn, if we would like to borrow some great photos or imagery that they've perhaps gathered, then we have that two-way communication already open. The last thing is one county, one voice. And again, that's really in terms of the messaging, creating those talking points and fact sheets on key issues. And that can also be shared with staff depending on the situation if they're immediately involved, like again, the assessor's office could be given the same information that our council is provided so that they get common questions. They know how to confidently respond to those. The last bucket is investing in our people or professional development. We will expand our skill set and our talent to include all the best practices in the fields of public relation and communication. And we want to serve as an example for other counties throughout the state and the region, and also county departments. So we are already members of the National Association of Government Communicators, as well as the State Association of Public Information Officers. Where I think there is an opportunity for growth is maybe bringing in some private training. I was a member of the Public Relations Society of America's board in Tampa. They're a very well-established organization that has a presence here in South Carolina as well as in Charlotte, so we can take their very low cost and reasonable, because they're not-for-profit, training sessions, some of which are online, which allows us to learn best practices from the private sector, which tend to move through trends a little more quickly and nimbly, but also make sure that we're understanding best practices from our fellow government agencies, because we know we have unique concerns. So that concludes my presentation. As I mentioned before, I'm welcome any questions or feedback. I'd love to hear from you all about your direction for the county in terms of communication, and if not today, at any point in time moving forward. Thank you.
Lisa, I think I speak for all the council saying we are very glad that you are here. It's very clear that you know what you're doing. You're talking about things that I don't even know how to comment on, which is a good thing because I don't do the techie stuff. I think the biggest thing that our council, and this has been important for us because one of the main things we want to make sure is that our residents are well informed with facts. Unfortunately, we live in a world where folks are getting their information from sources that aren't accurate. And so at least what we can do as a council, we've had many discussions about this, about, you know, some council members have the time and the ability to do these newsletters and some don't. I think what council really was interested in doing is making sure that we have a system in place that folks can access information that's accurate information, that you're hearing it from the horse's mouth directly. I love a lot of what you're saying here. And I think the second thing was the county is doing tremendous things. We have been doing a lot of good things, and that story just never seems to really fully get out there. And you know, that takes building on a team and making sure that we have the resources that are available. I would say just a couple of comments. One of the things that we've always pointed residents to is the Notify Me. That it's very cumbersome. It's very difficult when you look at it and check those boxes. But one of the things that we discussed was having, you know, regular, constant communication. From what I understand, it has to be, you know, consistent in order for folks to pick up and doing, you know, social media and getting that information out to the public is simply critical. I hope that we certainly, personally, I think it's important to take that and simplify it, make it easier for folks to sign up to get as much information as they want. And I know that Greg has worked real hard on that too. I think it's important to take that and translate it into having access. I know that the city of Rock Hill does a fantastic job. I know they have a lot of resources, but they do a fantastic job with their their information. And so I think taking a look at that and being able to respond quickly instead of days later is kind of a key thing. I hear what you're saying on branding. I certainly think that I don't mind the seal temporarily, and I think that it could, you know, that could be something that we look at in the future. I think more than anything, just being able to act quickly. And I love that you've put together this plan. If there's, you know, we come up on budget time of being able to understand what do we need to happen to make sure that these things are happening, and understand what's going to be required to get that information out, I think is key. I'll turn it over to other council members who have questions or comments.
Anything? Welcome.
Thank you.
One thing I know, and I'll echo what Christy's mentioned, our biggest challenge has been telling the public what we're doing that's so great that they don't know about. Because every week in and week out, we do things that are phenomenal up here that the public don't really know about them. They don't know what we're involved with. So that's been our biggest challenge. And me and Christy's gone back and forth for years saying, You know, how do we let people know what we're doing and how whether we're helping them, doing things that they benefit from. Obviously, people get the word on the big decisions, but it's some of the little things that people really want to know about that we're doing that I don't think gets broadcast, whether it's we don't get a lot of news coverage. WRHI don't cover some of the things. Of course, they get the hot topics, the big things, but we're more than just the big topics that we cover. It's a lot of meat between the breads that people don't really get, and we want them to really get it so that they know. And we're not looking for anybody to put any spin on it. We want it straight down the middle, what we vote on, what we're doing, and I think that will help us because we're working for them, doing things that benefit the community that they're just not getting. And I think with you and Greg and some things that you discussed, some things that Greg is doing, I think it'll help push that message. So looking forward to obviously reaching a lot of people. And I see there are many ways people get their information or news. A lot of people not sitting in front of the TV anymore. So there's all the social media. Just looking forward to what you're going to bring, help us out.
Thank you.
Lisa, it's great to see you here tonight. I tell you, when you're interviewing individuals for a position that's pretty important to an entity like the county, there's nothing better 3 weeks in for someone to come with a vision, goals, and a plan. So really appreciate you coming to York County, and clearly you're going to have an impact on an area that we need to obviously improve upon. So I'm sure you'll do a great job. Christy mentioned it, so keep us posted on, the only ask I heard you ask for was funding for a brand initiative, and if that's something that's critically important, I think it is, as we're looking at York Fire One and some other things we're doing with the county. How do we properly brand what we look like moving forward? So whatever it is you need from us, please come to us and ask. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the simplest way to put it is get the good news to spread as fast as the bad.
I like
That's
that.
what I think.
That's good.
Is that it? Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you very
I'm
much.
sure we'll be seeing a lot of you.
Hopefully so. Thank you.
Next up is the follow-up discussion regarding the Government Relations Services and legislative agenda.
Yes, so this is, Madam Chair, a similar conversation. I think, staff, we really want to have a conversation related to this. As I've looked in to a lobbyist, as we've done an RFP and gotten bids back, I think the challenge that we're facing is now unique in the United States. It's a unique time, and it doesn't necessarily make sense to me to pursue a lobbyist at this time. I think as I've dug into it, one of the things as an organization that we could benefit most from a lobbyist is somebody who has experience in Washington, D.C. And with the current government shutdown and a reduction in government funding, at this time, I think it doesn't make sense to go forward with the federal lobbyist. I think this could be something we consider in a year or two if there's more available funds at the federal level. I think the other thing that I've assessed is I've been here for a year and a half. We do have great relationships with our state delegation as well. We've had a lot of good conversations with our state delegation, and I think what's important is we have more of those conversations, and we introduce each of y'all to some of those conversations. So if you're asking me what I think in terms of the lobbyist, I think at this point, what I would recommend is this year we keep a similar approach. But the manager's office, I'm committing, and I know my assistant county managers are committing to being more present in Columbia this year and for engaging more with our delegation one-on-one, two-on-one, bringing one of y'all with us. I know that the SCAC has a winter event that some of y'all have been to. That's a great opportunity, whoever's there, to engage with our local delegation. But I've been impressed with how quickly the relationships have formed between myself and the state delegation. I think more than anything, what we can do together is to develop a legislative platform or agenda that meets y'all's vision. I think last year what we tried to do was to utilize the strategic plan to help drive that. And I think what we all learned was they're two very different things. When you think about the big rocks that we talk a lot about and the things that we've asked the state delegation to help with, it's things like roads and the finite resources we currently face ourselves with at the state level. Water and sewer infrastructure, which the state has helped with in the past, but we will need continued support. Public safety, like any jail additions that we intend to do in the future. The booking center could have been one of those opportunities. Parks, which we have asked consistently for help on parks, and I think we're doing a great job with Catherine's help making asks and continuing to do that, whether they be big or small. And then potentially fire department asks. Those are what I would consider the 5 big areas. One of the things we did was Tom Couch printed a copy of what he did in Bullitt County when he was there in terms of developing a legislative agenda. What we think we could do is, with your help, develop a document, and Lisa and her office's help, develop a professional document that we take with us to Columbia, that we give to people, that we bring with us everywhere we go, and hit on the priorities, but also celebrate and say thank you for the things we got the previous year, which we have a number of items. But I wanted to start there. I think whenever you put something out, you learn and you assess. And I know some of y'all were interested in a lobbyist, and so we put it in the budget. But I think we've all learned kind of maybe we don't need it now. And I think it's okay to pivot, and that's what I'm asking for tonight. But I'm open to any conversations or suggestions.
I'll say that when council was looking at this, I think it's always important to keep the end in mind. What are we trying to accomplish? And what was extremely clear to me, and what's been clear over the years, is that it seems like we aren't we aren't having clear asks of our delegation. And whether it's at state level or the federal level, there are things that our community needs, whether it is a legislative change. We're going through another impact fee discussion, and one of the big areas that's a sticking point is not having an exemption for folks like first responders and fire and police and folks who have lived here and have lived in this county for a year. We just continue to be told there's nothing you can do. Well, we've been doing this for enough years that we should have had what I think is a government affairs coordinator. I don't even like the term lobbyist. The county shouldn't have to have a lobbyist. But the county did, before I got on council, have a representative who had a pulse on government affairs throughout the county, at the state, and at the federal level, and was looking out for keeping a pulse there as to what items they're considering funding and what items are hot topics, because you have to keep a pulse on that in order to know where to ask for things. And after serving for as long as I have, I really think that the county and the people in the community would be well served by having someone who is intimately involved in county business. I do not like the idea of us hiring someone who has some kind of allegiance to 5 different counties, or they're just doing piecemeal things, because what that ends up requiring is that requires us to have the story together and hand it off to go ask them for things, when in actuality we need someone who's in it, who sees it. It's kind of, it's somebody who's here, somebody who's committed to the county and who's committed to the people of the community, and really someone that's looking to not push any agenda other than what the majority agenda is being asked to do. So I certainly understand why this was put up. I was not aware that this was going to go out for like an RFP and we were going to be sending this out, and I just don't think that's what we're aiming for. So in terms of my personal opinion, I think we still should look at this. I think it's important, because without this, I don't think we make changes. If you want to make legislative changes, you have to have help there at that level of government to get that done. And even when it comes to event centers, or when it comes to the impact fees, we've had so many issues that we've needed some changes legislatively, and we didn't have a champion doing that, because we're here, we're lean, and we're doing the business of the people. And I do want to say, that's not to say that I don't think that our management team is not doing a great thing and that you're not building those relationships. that has to be done. I just think you're already spread so thin. How are we going to create that? How are we going to create this and actually kind of see some things through? I look at serving as chair, you also get to see some things as to how other counties are doing things, and they come prepared with materials that are ready to go so that it can be presented. And I also get to see that there's a lot of things. I mean, this is supposed to be a part-time job, but there are a lot of things that a chair could do and should, you know, going to meetings at the state level, going and doing things. That government affairs coordinator could also be helping with that, because then if you only look at putting people in the seats that we sit in who are retired or who have the time to go run around, then you don't get a good diverse group of people at the council level too. So I will say, and I'll just kind of pull this all together, I still think that we really need to look into. We've budgeted for it. Clearly, I'm fine with doing away with the RFP and not looking at lobbyists. I don't even like I said, I don't even like that word, but I still do think that we should look at and translate this into some sort of government affairs coordinator.
So I agree with what Christy's saying. For the most part, what I envision is somebody that can spend a lot more time than what y'all are tasked with or have. I mean, y'all have specific jobs that you got to do, and being down at the State House or being over at at our delegation, different offices or places, I think it's too much for you. And I really, because it's not just the funding aspects, I mean, for one thing, you get a year like this year where they decided not to fund anything, but there's all sorts of legislative changes that need to be made, things that could be helped. And I know we had the SCAC to do that, but it also helps, I think, to have our local people saying, hey, we support. It's not just that group down there that's lobbying for us, but we need, we're in touch with our local people to get these things done. The impact fee one, trying to get some exceptions into that. Some of these, and old laws that are just out of date, that are still hanging up things, just getting them brought up to speed so that we can do the things we do. Having somebody discuss, what we're seeing business related, trying to get businesses here, and the tax code, which is a big enough issue. But if we had, just a few more people down there, really expressing what we need, I think that's important. But I really think it's more than what y'all are supposed to be doing or should be doing.
Well, good luck on getting those people to change some of the old laws, because some of the same old people are still down there who put them in effect. So that's the big challenge there. The thing that I thought would have been great by having a lobbyist or somebody helping speak on our behalf is, even though we got a great delegation that serves us in Columbia, they don't know every single thing that's coming down the pipe, and they're not there just to report back to us what's available. That additional person in Columbia could be watching and looking and listening, hearing about things that's coming. Now, I'm sure if we call any of our delegation up and saying, what do you think about this? Do you think we can get some help with it? Yeah, they'll do some little legwork, but their main focus obviously is serving the whole state. But if we had someone else that could have another pulse of what's coming down, even at the federal level, because a lot of stuff comes to the state from the federal that we could benefit from. I know there are some programs that's already up and going that's with affordable housing initiatives that our county don't take advantage of. And we've had people actually come to this chamber and say, why don't you put your hat in the ring for some of these funds? And I don't know if we've been staffed to go after those dollars, but there are many different things that the state is going to be offering that sometimes it's who gets there first, who gets to ask in first, and who can show the need. And if we may hear about it one month, we might not be able to pull together the plan to go after and secure those dollars within a certain time frame. But when I first came on board, we did have someone that was just I think, serving for York County. And we kind of got away from it, but I would like to agree partially with you with the political climate. Is just, how do you handle this? Is this the right person? Is this the right move with all what's going on? A lot of programs getting cut, a lot of funding's getting cut. How do we get in there and compete for those same dollars that pretty much is dried up until some funds get released? I don't know if one would actually help right now, but is that a standstill? And one more thing I thought about getting the word out to the public with you. You can make sure that they know we're not shut down like the federal government. We're still working. we got some good things going, but that's just my 2 cents.
When I first joined council, I thought it would make sense to have a lobbyist in Columbia and even somebody helping us in D.C. The more I talked to our state delegation and the more I spoke with lobbyists, and then being associated with the South Carolina Association of Counties, talking to other counties and the benefit they're actually getting out of it, it's caused me to really rethink this approach. When I think about our county government, since Josh came in, we've gone from 2 assistant county managers to 3. We've realigned responsibilities, so we have organization and an organizational chart, more to come, I think, pretty sure of that. Lisa's joined us, which is a great addition. We've seen that tonight. So I believe that as this county continues to evolve from a leadership perspective, holding people accountable to the jobs they were hired to do, which I'm not saying they don't, I'm just saying the responsibilities that some of the assistant county managers are taking on now will eventually be delegated down so they could do bigger and better things. What better people, though, than to send Josh, Tom, Kevin, and David to Columbia working on their downline of responsibilities. They know more about their downline of responsibilities than anybody else does. That's why we hired them in. That's why they were hired into these positions. Getting a document together like this document that Tom used in Georgia makes a lot of sense. I've been on council since 2023. No offense. Look, you could take a look at any of the businesses I own and you would probably say, I would do this differently, and I'd probably agree with you, because in 35 years, I hadn't done the best job managing my business. So the county's no different. But when I joined council in 2023, I'm not sure we met with the local delegation in 2023. We did in 2024 and 2025. But at the first meeting that we had, we really didn't have an agenda or an ask from the delegation. Then the second meeting, county did, county council didn't. Then the second meeting, county council somewhat had an ask, not collaboratively, but we had an ask. So we made some improvement, right? So what I'm getting at is, I think there's a process, just like hiring a consultant to come in and do work for the county. When a consultant comes to do work for the county, there's work that should be done leading up to the point where you launch the consultant into their work. So it's the pre-work that needs to be done. If Josh and his staff feel like they have the time and they can delegate some of their responsibilities to other people and staff and go to Columbia and develop a relationship with our local delegation, delegations saying to me, look, we're all on committees. Some of them are on transportation committees. So those are the ones that are going to help us with our roads, right? They're on the committees making the decisions. They're pushing the narrative. What better individual to push for York County than an elected official from the area, right? And I think these 4 individuals know more about that. And then some of us have a passion for economic development, whatever it might be that you have, parks, and you may attend with them to help York County get through to whatever initiative we're looking for. And one last thing is that I think often, Christy said a few minutes ago, that when you're planning for something, you have the end goal in mind, and then you come back to where you are and you say, how are we going to work from here to there? And when you're going to the state or the federal government, in my opinion, asking for money, it's not a one-year ask. It's an ongoing ask in relationship. So yeah, you may not have money this year, but you're looking to get that money at some year in the future, right? And you're aware now of where all the money is, so you can access it on the federal level and the state level. And I just think these 4 individuals could at least get this initiative off the ground. I look back on our budget this past year. There were items we took out of the budget. I was just on a phone call today with Tom Couch, and he did a phenomenal job with this individual that Lisa could go interview one day, and he would say how good of a response he got out of a council leader, a county leader. He'd be the perfect person to interview. But quite honestly, that wasn't the phone call for Tom to be on today. I'm glad he was, because the situation was handled properly, and it's going to get resolved. But where Tom really probably ought to be is meeting with a local delegation and meeting with leadership in Columbia, South Carolina, to help York County get some things we're not getting now. Same thing with Kevin, David, and Josh. So I've kind of pivoted on this issue. I thought a lobbyist made sense in the beginning. Now I feel like working through our local delegation, engaging them in the things that are priorities for us. You named 5, you just named 5 earlier. Let's get focused on what it is that we want, and let's engage our staff to go out and sell this on behalf of York County and see where that takes us.
Well, all I say, I don't care how we really do it, we just need a voice. And a lot could be done on phone. But we need to know exactly what is out there and going, whether this person just happens to go every so often or what. But I think it would, having someone would show a little bit more we're serious than when we just make the call to our individual delegates for ask or something. But other than that, I don't know enough about it to really.
I think I'm hearing a consensus, and we do have a couple of council members who aren't here, but I think I'm hearing the consensus of agreement that the lobbyist is not the way to go, especially with what we've gotten back. I think that we need to continue to have some discussion about, how do we make sure, some things that I was taking notes of as other folks were talking. I think we're close to saying the same things, but I think a lot of this is going to be on you, Josh, trying to determine, is there a need for help in this area? And I really do think that there is going to be. As someone who's sat here long enough, I think that you guys have got jobs. We're expanding our water and sewer. We have planning and zoning things that would seem like we can't get done. We're working on a one fire. I really do think that there is a benefit to having someone who their job would be to understand what are the, you and I went through this process before where there was grant opportunities that are available at the federal level. There's a whole, talking with Teresa at Lindsey Graham's office, there's a whole website dedicated to this that you cannot, y'all aren't going to be able to spend your time and figure that out. It's developing that relationship. How is the best way that we develop that relationship, that we understand what is available, that we understand what the climate is, so that we know how to take the needs that we know our community has and translate that into better communication with not only state and feds, but even local. Having that extra arm available that would be answerable to management, but that is carrying out the needs that we have and can devote more time to actually what we ran into with the problem with even event centers or with changing the laws on things, is that you kind of need someone who's able to help craft those things and to help work through bills, because you can very quickly run into we see it here on smaller issues, that when something comes up, you get a roadblock, but it required you to have a more intimate understanding. When I hear about SCAC, yes, that's supposed to be a good arm, but honestly, the SCAC initiatives are things that you have to find unanimity in cause for there to be really, so they really aren't looking at, to me, York County has had this conversation with our state commerce folks. We're such an enigma because of where we're located, because of it's a blessing and a curse to be so close to, our neighbor to the north and such a major metropolitan city, but it has such opportunities to it as well. So I think that the SCAC pushes issues that everyone shares, but a lot of those issues are with smaller communities and don't have the same issues that York County has. We have kind of a nuanced issue with things that are happening, but I think this was a good conversation. I think that we've kind of going to need some more feedback for management, and a little bit more dialogue with council on where do we want to dedicate those resources and funding that we set aside because we recognize a need, but we need to figure out what's the best way to move it forward. So if there's no,
Add one other point. I think it's important, too, that in this initiative, we understand how important it is to collaborate with the municipalities, because the municipalities have needs as well, and they're going after the same money. And sometimes we're positioned in Columbia, as an example, as if we're competing against each other for something, when we should actually be working collaboratively together.
that was exactly what I was trying to say when I'm saying it's not just state and federal, it's local too, and being
Yep.
able to have that extra person who's able to, I mean, rec fees comes to mind. I mean, it seems like that there was such a breakdown of communication. You couldn't be, Josh, you couldn't go and meet with 9 different people 8 different times, but maybe having some extra added resources to help follow through and deal with that would have yielded some different communication. I mean, I think we've already budgeted because we recognize a need. If we don't need it, I'm sure that, we'll deal with it. But clearly we're on the same page that lobbyist is not the way to go, and I fully support that. Any other comments or questions from council or anything from you, Josh?
If there's no other comments, just the one follow-up I would add is on the agenda, we will, for next Monday, we'll make sure to add the lobbyist item back on as it was deferred. So there
We
can be
need to deny it.
finality on that. So
Yeah.
Karen and I will work on that
Okay.
for next
Okay.
Monday.
All right. Thank you all. Good discussion. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.